Well, that's one way to end the game. What is going on there, gentlemen? Welcome back to Beyond the 90. Manchester United 3, Leicester 0. Disappointing, man. Disappointing. We started the game so strong overall, and not good enough, especially in that second half. You would have thought that this was the team that played on Thursday, but it wasn't, because Man United have been away to Barcelona, had a 2-2 draw, really, really good game, and we've not delivered. So I'm disappointed. Not because, again, I don't mind getting beat. I think as a Leicester fan this season, we've kind of got used to it. It's the manner in which we get beat, and I'll get into some of the statistics and that later on. But if you get your thoughts down in the comments, we might have some special guests joining. We'll have to see. But we started brightly, and that's the worst thing. It's the hope that kills you. I mean, you look at the first half. Man United had some possession earlier on in the game, and they were putting Leicester under some pressure, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine from my opinion. And they needed to weather the storm, and they did. They came up to about 8 minutes, and I'll tell you what. Until that time, Souttar was playing really well. I was really impressed by Souttar overall in the game. I know people say, "Oh, he was at fault for the goals." And he was, but he's still learning. But I'm seeing a really good improvement over the likes of Daniel Amate. Yeah, really good performance overall. Again, leave your comments and I'll try and bring them up on screen. But the refereeing decisions in this game were just rubbish. I mean, at times, again, people are getting this. Again, Rene's in the chat. Shout out, Rene. How you doing? Brad, if you want to join, feel free. I'll try and send you it on that. But again, the refereeing was shocking. And not just that, people in the commentary, I know Gary Neville is biased to hell. Even when he was the Maddison challenge in the second half, and he was going, "Oh yeah, the same as Spitz challenge." I'm like, who said that? Awful. It was awful. There's some of the decision making. However, let's be honest, we weren't up for a second half. I think some of the stats, I'll bring it up now, kind of played into that, because I'll get it up in a second. Yeah, and Brad, I'll send you the link. Don't worry. So that was the stats over. As you can see, in terms of, oh no, is that the same screen? I can't see at the moment. Just here from the second half, just nothing, wave after wave of Man United attack. And I'll try and pop the link over to you now, Brad. In terms of some of the defending we were looking at, it was just pathetic. And I'm really just annoyed about the way that, again, the defending, but also we didn't help ourselves. In the second half, did we show up? Did we have the capacity to go toe-to-toe to Man United? Yes. With that team, without Casemiro, yes. And they were starting to lay from like 74 minutes. This team could compete, as you showed in the first half. The fact they didn't show up, I thought was pathetic. They really did. Credit to Brendan a little bit. Started with the same team that played against Tottenham, and they won. Glad he kept Mendy in. Glad he kept Kieran Dewsbury Hall in. He could have kept Tillemans, but he put it in. And overall, I've got Brad with us. But Brad, overall, thanks for coming on, mate. What are your thoughts on the game overall?
I've got some footage, but I can't share it with you. It's actually from inside. It's actually from inside VAR. I'm just gonna have to try and act it out for your viewers, just so you don't get struck up for it. Here it is. Oh, that looks like a red card. Yeah, mate, we've got it on our way. Don't worry about it. Premier League have just sent me a transfer of money across. Don't worry about it. It's not a red card. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's the officiating, mate. It's an absolute shambles. It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke. And look, the second half, we were poor. What are we supposed to be like? We're playing against 12 men. Then we're playing against 14 men. Then a goal that, does anyone remember Harvey Barnes' knee hair being offside? But that was allowed to be offside. Yeah, some dodgy bent line drawings means that Rashford's goal. You're not going to recover from that. You cannot play against a very good United side. And this isn't a dig at United. At the end of the day, the decision for someone given, get on with the game. That's what we would do in that situation. But this has to stop, because it is killing the term "the beautiful game" does not exist in football anymore, because they are tarnishing the game. They are ruining it to a point of embarrassment, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop, because it's just ruined a really good game of football for the neutrals. in my opinion. If you're a neutral sat there watching that, you're like, oh, Man U are 3-0 now. That's a bit annoying. Oh, well, I'll wait for the Spurs game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just ruined a good game of football.
And the thing is, even though, and that is definitely a point I want to mention, because that was the case that the Mendy gets a yellow card in the second half, and that's nowhere near as good a tackle. Just a little trip, not even anything in it much, that gets a yellow. And we're just going, where's the consistency, as you were saying? And there was other points in the game where I was like, right. And then fast again, that was a foul, I think, in the first half. But I was like, there is no consistency here whatsoever. And it's just so frustrating. However, I don't think they're the only people to blame in this. Again, as you mentioned, first half, I'm going into that first. I'm going, if we keep playing like this, Brad, we can get something out of this game. So only 1-0. They've not created too many chances. Again, Darlow should have had a goal at 36 minutes. But if we keep playing like this, we can get something from the game. Didn't happen. From the first kickoff of the second half, didn't show up pretty much at all, did we?
No, we didn't. And unfortunately, the knock-on effect of everything that followed just completely ruled out any chance. I mean, the first half started the same in the second half. The first 5 minutes felt like it went on for about 30 because it was all Manchester United. But, and look, you can't, obviously, like I said, any raging and any form of today from Leicester fans isn't necessarily at United. We're not having a dig at United and saying, oh, you're cheating this, you're cheating that. They didn't get the decisions given to them. There's one thing that really grinds my gears, right? What was the one thing we were told when VAR was installed, though? Right? It is there for clear and obvious mistakes. Okay. So, but magically, there's a ruling in there that says if it's not deemed a red card offence by the person officiating it, that they can't look at it, they can't send it to the referee. Why not? Because let's just say that he gets away with a red and the referee goes over to the screen and goes, yeah, okay, fair, he should have got something, I'm going to book him for it. Okay. Does he play with creative freedom? Does Ten Hag keep him on? Knowing he's a walking red card if he gets away with it? I don't think so. And you know, these things have the effect, and people might say, oh, it doesn't make a difference if he's on the pitch, he probably still score. No, you play differently. When you've got a yellow card, you play differently. Whether you mean to or not, your mentality changes in certain scenarios where you don't feel you've got the freedom, or you don't feel you can stick a foot on somebody and get the yellow because it doesn't matter, you're not going to get second yellow. It changes how you go about it. And look, United got second and then got third so quickly, the game was dead. You might as well have just blown the whistle there. As soon as the third goal hit the back of it, you might as well have blown the whistle there because that was the result dead. It was only going to get worse. Thankfully, it didn't because we really didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve to lose badly. And it just masks and it just mirrors the whole performance because you can't really rate Leicester's second half performance.
Because there wasn't any.
Because there weren't. Well, A, there wasn't any. And B, again, how can you expect to be in that? You know, if there was no controversy in that game, and and Rashford's clearly, and if Rashford's second goal and he's 4 yards onside and he's not clearly offside, which he was, I mean, everybody thought he was offside, even to the naked eye, he's offside. But if that doesn't happen, let's say he's 3 yards on, and it's just, and he's clearly on, and there's no arguments about it. And Man, you get a third. We have something to gripe about with how we've performed and how we've gone out in that second half. But you have to really sympathise, and I've sympathised with a lot of other teams when it's happened to them, and I know why. Today, mate, was my first time that I actually turned off the telly, not because of the performance, because I sat there and watched us lose 6-2 to Spurs. I sat there and watched the full 90 minutes of 5-2 against Brighton. I've sat there and watched us lose 6-1 at Ipswich years ago in the Championship. I have sat there and never turned it off. But football died a little for me tonight, and I couldn't stand by and watch it. I went onto Leicester.com and listened to the remaining games. I didn't abandon it completely, but now it's just I worry now that the referee scenario is beyond repair.
It's so frustrating. Yeah, you're right, because there's been, and it's not just this, and you would have thought last week was a god awful week for VAR. Not VAR. The thing is, with VAR, it's a technology. It's not bias. It's our refereeing that's the bloody problem.
It's the R in VAR that's the problem.
Yeah. Big R in terms of refereeing, and it's just not been. And it's It's so and the thing is, it was looked at when you looked at it in slow motion. Sure, it looks worse in slow motion, but the height, the studs up, we were all going, surely that's something. Didn't even get a yellow, and that's what's surprising when you look at VAR. They would have gone right. That's surely just at least a minimum a yellow card, because that's too high, way too high. That's a knee break. If Wild plants his foot, that's gone. His leg's gone.
Yeah, his knee's completely gone if that's with any. And I don't get all this. Oh, it's a little bit of. It's not that much momentum. Oh, so you wanted him to break his kneecap? Is that what you're saying? That's what it needs to do to warrant a card. And this is what I mean with the rules being so contradiction. And again, this is, people don't need to get this twisted. It's not a dig at Man United, the opposition. This is a dig at the contradictions we have with VAR, because it's like they made the rules to suit this, because VAR's there for clear and obvious. That's clear and obvious that that's a card, right? You can argue long into night whether it's a red or a yellow. Personally, it's a red. It's knee high. That's the rules. It's a red. It should be off, right? Some Man United fans, which is what they're going to do. It's their team. They might say, oh, it's at least a yellow. I don't think it's a red. Fair enough. Whatever you decide, it's your decision, right? But that's clear and obvious. But I heard the commentators that I was watching the stream on go, unfortunately, VAR can't get involved with a yellow card decision.
Yeah, same.
So they can't get involved, but they have to deal with clear and obvious. So the foul was clear and obvious, but they can't get involved. Kind of contradicting, if you ask me. It's very contradicting. Yeah. And I found it really funny and suspicious, and I'm going to say the word suspicious here, 3-0 up, and all the commentators could say is, well, Sabitzer should have been sent off. Sabitzer should have been sent off. That's probably a red card. Now we look at it. Oh, yeah, man, you were 3-0 up. It's easy for you to come out and say that without criticism. Spineless, a lot of them. The officials are spineless, and Jobsworth, they don't deserve the paycheck.
No,
for the last 2 weeks.
I think one of them left. Never heard of him before, but he left, and I was like, well, at least something's happening at VAR. Again, if we're one less person, we'll have to say. I think one thing that I want to mention that, again, I didn't think it was too bad, but again, Ethan puts in the comments about conversation about Danny Ward. Now, let's be honest, he's not going to be probably the future keeper going forward. I don't think he was too bad today. I don't think that was like, oh, that's definitely Danny Ward's fault. There was a team fault. The defense were all over the place at times, especially in the second half, but I don't think that Danny Ward deserves too much things to complain about, in my opinion.
I mean, the only argument you have is first goal, should he rush? Should he rush out? Maybe he should. But Rashford's on hot form. So, one of them. The second goal, there's not really a lot he can do about it. Third goal, there's nothing he can do about it. I just think, unfortunately, Danny Ward's a scapegoat
as well. He made some good saves apart from that as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did. He actually stopped the scoreline being 4-5, which they definitely didn't deserve. And again, looking at the performance of the match, yes, Manchester United deserved the result in the end. Despite our efforts in the first half, and De Gea, well. You can't do a note about it. You know what I mean? He's making saves like that. You just know it's probably not going to be your day. But no, I don't like the fact, because I always like try and remind Leicester fans, right? And I know people will say, oh, there's an age difference. No, take it on the fact that they both played in the Premiership. Schmeichel's first season in the Premiership, he had some howlers in him. To the point where I remember, and maybe it wasn't as long as I feel, but it felt this long, that a 40-year-old Mark Schwarzer was preferred over him for a period in that season of the Great Escape. That Schmeichel was no longer favoured as the man to do the job, and Schwarzer was given it. And look at the keeper we had afterwards. Schmeichel, running the show, was our best keeper. We've got to give Danny Ward a chance. There was no point giving him this season and then going out and buying a replacement. If it continues, then we'll have to do that. But right now, we just have to show a little bit of patience and faith in the £12 million goalkeeper, because we've been crying out for years for a number 2 to be able to step up and make that transition, so we don't have to go out and spend money on a replacement. So I don't blame him for the goals. If I want to be uber critical, he could probably react a little quicker to the first one, like I said, but I still think Rashford scores it. I mean, let's face it, are we shouting at Wout Faes for kind of lethargically giving the ball to nobody and that give the goal? Because at that point, Leicester could have and probably should have been looking at worse coming in half time 0-0, the way
Yeah.
we were controlling the game.
And that point as well is Suter was playing him on offside. He's trying to set the offside trap on. And for me, I'm not trying to blame him too much. It was because he played well for the majority of the game. It is something you've got to be aware of stepping up from the Premier League. Listen, this guy's had to hit the ground running because we've needed somebody to come in. And he's made a mistake. And I'm like, I'm happy to give him the mistake because the performance throughout has been okay. And it was been decent. And at times when I think, was it earlier on, that first couple of 5 minutes, Castagna gives an awful ball away. So he's like, let me sort it out, give it away. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's got that defensive, that leadership mentality, which I love. But I think at times you just got to go for the goals and go, they were good enough. But we do have to criticize the defense as a whole and the way they are trained, because at times, especially in the second half, it's like they're all playing in butter. They just disappeared. Like, they just completely disappeared. And if Man United were better at finishing and Danny Ward was less good of a goalkeeper, it would have been, as you said, 5, 6, 7. I think he had 8 shots on target in total.
Yeah, and probably the only saving pinch of grace that Leicester have from that result is it definitely wouldn't have warranted it. So we're probably going, well, at least the corruption. I mean, at least the result stayed at 3-0 and didn't get any worse, because you'd have sat here flabbergasted at how it's ended in a drubbing. You'd have thought, if you missed the game, you're out walking your dog or whatever for 90 minutes, and you came back and saw it at 5-6-0, you'd have gone, oh, well, we collapse away from home. That isn't the case. Yeah. The only thing Leicester can do right now is get it out of the system, sulk a little bit, have the rest of the day off. I don't know how it works when it's a Sunday game, whether they'd probably be in training tomorrow, I assume, or they get the day off. I don't know. But get it out of your system, accept what it is, because we have to, because it's not going to change, because, the FA and the Premier League, they take it dry from the rich six in terms of they don't upset them. And just take that first half performance, show them what they did and what they are capable of, even when the officials aren't playing fair, and just go again against Arsenal. There's no reason we can't just pick that up and go and beat Arsenal next week.
Yeah, just dust yourself down and get on with it. I know you're right. And there were certain players for me that in general there wasn't anybody to really pick on. I think there's one person in particular that I want to mention, because I don't think it's been enough criticism, especially even in the first half. I don't think Tete's done enough for me. Going forward and even defensively, I know he's not a defensive player, he's a more attacking player. Barnes, I could see he was trying, but I'm not trying to go at him, but I'd say, what did you really offer Tete in the game? I'm not trying to get after him too much, but I have to bring it up.
Yeah, and I did a lineup prediction show on a preview show on Leicester Side. That's where I do most of my post matches. I thought I'd come in here to save Chris the swear jar, to be honest with you, and get it out of the way. But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, but he wasn't. And Brendan Rodgers did have a go at him for not getting back properly. I think he's still learning that, and we know we didn't sign him to be a defensive right winger or anything, but he's doing the job to get back. But this is why, when I predicted the team, I said, as much as I don't want to change a winning lineup, maybe throw caution into the wind for the first 60 minutes and put Dennis Pratt in there, because he is a bit more defensive minded. He's not going to make them run-busting runs. But you saw with Castagna that you didn't necessarily need them both making runs down that right. Castagna could have overlapped. He could have played in a ball behind him, or in front of him, or in behind the strikers, and it could have been a different out game. Because if you get in at half time, level, or and I mean in terms of players on the pitch and scoreline, you frustrate Manchester United. They don't get that second goal and completely knock the wind out of our sails and kill the game off. If we've frustrated Man U at 0-0 and 70 odd minutes ago, and then you put him on, that attacking flair can really upset the apple carts. He just wasn't maybe not used right today, and I understand it, because for the first time Brendan stuck with an 11 that won a game and everybody cheered it. And football is a cruel game, and it's a cruel as a cruel today because, he's probably the only player you look at and think you had a few good crosses and your intent was there with the shot he had in the first half, but this
Is
is the
that the
problem.
level though? Do you know what I
Yeah, but
mean? Because Albright, you could say, to do the same thing. I'm not saying that him and Albright are comparable, but we've criticised Mark Albright for doing very similar. And again, he's very early in his career at Leicester, but
yeah,
it's just something to mention. I'm not trying to go, I'm getting on his skin, he's terrible. I've
no,
just taken notice of that. Like, there was one player that was dropping levels a little bit more than the rest.
yeah. And again, if you really want to put it out there, like I did for Danny Ward, we were all moaning about Mahrez for 6-7 months of his career. You know, remember him in the
Yeah.
Championship? Knockout was even getting ahead of him for periods of that.
Yeah.
We even moaned at him a bit during the first year that he was with us in the Premier League until that great ending that we had to the season. That's when he really came into his own. And look, for what we're potentially, we know the deal with the whole debacle of the whole entire transfer is a bit of a mess. But for what you're potentially buying him for in terms of his strength and what you're expecting of him, he wasn't too bad. Today, it is just that second part of his game that worries me a little bit. But we've been having this problem since Mahrez left as well. So we'll see. I'm sure there's plenty of games left to go this season where he will put on a show for us and we'll go, that's why we're willing to potentially pay 25 million for him. And we'll see it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And I think, David's put a comment here. Disagree about Tete. Keeps the width, make great passes. I think he only really made 2 from what I can remember. But yeah, defensively is no way not going to. And I think, again, as Brad was saying, he'll learn that over time if he is committed like Mahrez is. But I think another player that I think people have definitely called out for, you mentioned Pratt. I'm really glad he came on as a sub. Samore, I like him, didn't do anything. Ricardo, I thought would have been a really good sub to put on at about 80 minutes. I'm surprised that he didn't really get a look in, to be honest. I would have liked to see him get a few minutes at least.
Yeah, I would have, but I think Rodgers maybe looked at the score and went, "Do I really want to risk it?" Because no way our luck's going in this game. He comes on for 10 minutes, he twists his ankle, and he's out for a couple of weeks. I'd save him for potentially the Arsenal game. I even said, and I wouldn't like to think he'd go that long with it, but I would suggest that the result, the outcome at that point, because against Spurs it was ideal. 4-1 up, the game's gone. They've got no intensity, so he's not going to get pressured on ball. And he got 5 to 8 minutes if you include stoppage time to get under his feet. If we're in a similar situation with Arsenal, where the game's dead and then their intensity's dropped, you might see him. But I would not be surprised if it's 90 minutes against Blackburn. It's the first real showing we get of Ricardo. And against Samore, the game's gone, it's 3-0. Put the defensive-minded defensive midfielder on a not, who I actually thought had a really good game, was like a rasp a drain pipe, as I say. He came on from Mendy, who I thought had a really good game, and it's just circumstances. You're 3-0 down. There's no point having someone trying to drive you forward with 5 minutes to go. You're not getting back into the game, especially not against Man United at Old Trafford. And especially the way they're controlling and dominating the game. So the subs were okay, but it's hard to judge anybody when from that third goal onwards. It's hard to judge anybody and how they played or didn't play.
Yeah, because it wasn't good enough, and especially again from 60 minutes on, I pretty much got when they went 3-1, 3-0. Sorry. Pretty much that all second half. I mean, I'll bring up the chart, and I'm not one massively for stats, but I just wanted to have a look at it. And yeah, we were just shocking in terms of that performance, especially in the second half. Brendan Rodgers doesn't have a plan B, even though he's got the players for a plan B. And it's really frustrating because the players came on, and you've got, again, Pratt, who's a good player, Chillerman's a good player, Samore's a good player, Vardy. I think, unfortunately, Vardy, I don't want to be that guy, but it feels like he's a bit finished. The players that came on, it's just like, right, lads, do the same thing again. I thought, well, it's not working. So why are we trying the same thing again? It reminds me very similarly of the Roma performance, where we just thought, right, we'll just try the same thing again, and eventually it'll work. And I'm like, come on, Brendan, you're better than this. You know how to change up a game to win. In this, it felt like they're just coming on and trying the same thing again.
Yeah, the problem that Leicester have at the moment, and it's probably a problem, and I don't know, there's a lot of problems for me to say. I'm glad I managed to get through that screwing that up there. But it's probably a problem that Leicester have had for numerous years. We have a plan B that only works if plan A works. You know, you see it in them games when it's all going, when everything's coming up Millhouse, you know, and Leicester are 4-1 up like they are against, you know, they were against Spurs. We make them defensive minded changes. We put on Pratt for Tete to take that flare out, but we've got a calm head there. We take off Mendy and put Ndidi or Samori on to just shore it up a little bit and make sure, you know, they don't sneak a goal or find a way back into it. We put Vardy on, which I'm with you. I think if you're taking Nacho off at that point, you need to put Daka on because he's going to run at them and not try and stretch them, which is what Vardy does. Vardy came on against Spurs to keep them knackered. There was no intent for him to get a goal and try and make it 5. There was no need to, although it would have been funny. But we don't have a plan B for if it's going wrong. We only have a plan B if it's going right. And that's the worrying thing. And Leicester, but Leicester haven't had that. Yeah, Leicester have never had a plan B for if it's going wrong. Not even under O'Neill. Not even under O'Neill did we have a plan B that actually worked. And I tell a lie, he developed a plan B, didn't he? Which was no, I would say the only time I've ever seen a plan B develop in my time watching Leicester was when O'Neill went, Elliot, whoa, you're quite tall. I've got 2 strikers, one's held together by sticky tape because we had injuries up front. Why don't you guys go up front? And we've got Guppy and we've got Izzet and Savage and Lennon. We'll put a ball into you. You do what you can. No one's expecting it. If you get us a goal, brilliant. I mean, I remember one point where I think Elliot was joint top goal scorer for us this season. Maybe with Sutar, we need to maybe do that. Flag him up front. Stick Soyuncu on for someone in the middle, so we've still got the man at the back, and stick Harry Sutar up front. Give him the outlet. I don't know, because Leicester have struggled to have a plan B for when it's going wrong.
We have, but even then, when there were certain things that it was for me the same even tactics of, we've seen it before where change to a back 3, try and get some winged people forward in different positions. It was just right, like for like, and nothing changes. And you're like, well, what's the point in almost making subs at that point? Because nothing really changed after they came on. I'm not bashing the individual players. I'm just like, we've seen this before. I think against Newcastle, when we played them twice, we did the same. We basically did the same thing. We tried, put the subs on, didn't work. Right, they dominated us. What we're going to do? We're going to put the same players, put another players on, and try the same thing again. And exactly the same. It was 3-0 that time as well. So I'm not going back to that time and say that performance is the same as this, but there are remnants of that where I'm going, Brendan, have you not learned your lessons? And it's been going on for the last couple of seasons. So I'm not here to go, we're back where we were. We're going to get relegated. No, but we need to learn from our mistakes, because for me, it's not good enough. And the fact that they had for me in that second half, after about 60 minutes, it was just a training exercise for Man United. And that for me was so disappointing, because we've got more to have a go at them. We had no way near that amount.
Yeah, and I think the solution is kind of staring Brendan in the face. And I think the problem is we've been so concerned with our defensive errors and our energy going forward, which until this result, well, until half time in this game, shall I say, Brendan was probably like, okay, well, I fixed that. That's looking good. Let's see how long it goes. And I think the easiest way to have fixed it today, maybe at 2-0, I know the third goal came really quickly and that killed it. But what you could have done is you could have still brought on Dennis Pratt for Tete, which is fine because he gives you that reassurance, that more defensive winger that we needed. But why don't you just kind of go, and this is at 2-0, I'm saying this, why don't you just go, okay, I'm going to move Mendy into the centre midfield, right? I'm not going to take him off because he's having a good game. I'm going to take, don't shoot me in the comments for this because I love him. I'm going to take Dewsbury Hall off, right? And I'm either putting Tillemans on and I'm going, you know, I'm almost going for like a 4-3-2-1, or I'm putting Daka on, and I'm sitting Maddison still behind, so it's still, and I'm taking that defensive midfielder out, I'm pushing him up the field, and I'm putting on a player that does that. And we change the compactness of how we go about things, because we need to find a way to have a plan C, if you will, or a plan B for when it's going wrong. Because, like you said, like for like, when you're losing the game, the opposition go, "Oh no, it's him." Oh no, wait, he's going. Oh, well, it don't matter really. We've dealt with it. We've dealt with this formation all day. We can deal with it now. If you look at a sub and go, "Oh, hold on a minute. I know we're 2-0 up, but they're making attacking changes and they're clearly changing the shape. We need to switch on here and make sure we don't get too carried away." And that's just now what Leicester are lacking. And I'm with you. I'm surprised that, I mean, the guy's come up to 200 games as a Leicester manager. I don't know. Maybe that early form where he did try something new and it didn't work has knocked his confidence to try it again yet, because he wants to get the confidence flowing. But we'll see.
It even reflected in the substitutes as well. We look again. Tielemans came on, Samori came off, and Mendy and Dewsbury Hall. And I'm with you on your points as well. The fact that they bought off Rashford and Luke Shaw implies that we've got this game in the bag now, boys. No worries, we can have a relax. And that's what, and they were, and from a Man United perspective, totally right to. We just didn't give them really opportunity to go for them. I mean, Elanga, Wan-Bissaka, them two are not starters for them. And then Mainu came on for Sabitzer. They were playing, I think McTominay came on just before that as well for Fred. That midfield was there to be got at. It was genuinely there. And if we're playing again, Yuri Tielemans one side and Samore is still better than McTominay and Mainu, who again is a 17-year-old. I think it wasn't a like for like, but in that midfield, they're better to players. So you're right. If we would have put Yuri just in the center of a pitch, just viewing everything, could spray balls out where he needs to. And then if we lose 3-0 or we even lose 4-0, do you know what? We give it a go. Instead of just going out kind of disappointed to go, do you know what? You can have the ball and see if you can score another goal again. And apart from that Maddison shot on target late, I don't think we created anything second half.
No, we really didn't. And you just brought up there when you showed the way they made their subs, Manchester United. That tells you that Leicester don't have a aggressive plan B. Because you look at it, right? Okay, so the goal got awarded and they brought on McTominay for Fred. So that's a little bit like for like. You'd probably say McTominay's like, okay, we're 2-0 up, let's shore it up. That's the change you make. He then looks over at his bench, at Leicester's bench, and watches them just in, out. Okay, so they're not changing anything. We can relax, guys. This game's dead. They've given up. Because, I mean, look at them changes. He makes the first one, and you're thinking, okay, you're bringing Tielemans on. That's okay. I can live with that. I'm not bothered who you take off for Tielemans in that midfield, because we know he's more attack minded. Dewsbury Hall, for me, put an effort in, but didn't have the greatest of games. But that aside, you're just looking at that second substitution, and you're thinking maybe that should be for Daka, not for Vardy. Vardy comes on in the end. And like I said, against Spurs, you can do that when you're 4-1 up. But why is he taking Iheanacho and Tete off at 3-0 and slowing the game down? That's the point. I think I remember when we played Arsenal early in the season and they went 3-2 or 4-2 up. And then he put Pratt on, and it's like, why didn't you do that at half time when we were 2-2 in that game? But that's a different game. That, when it's 3-2 or whatever it was when we played them. But it does concern you that a manager, especially of Ten Hag's quality and a team of Man U, can kind of look at Leicester and just go, ha. You want your assistant going, Gaffer, look, they're making changes. They're still not. They're still going for this. Look, he's got Daka warming up. He's got Tielemans warming up. They're clearly not seeing this game out 2-0. We need to make sure. And then, he does, because who in their right mind is 2-0 up, sees your opposition make changes and goes, well, let's be more attacking then. Let's get Wan-Bissaka on to run riot down that right-hand side. Let's get Sancho on so we can damage them even more. No, Ten Hag should have been looking at Leicester's substitutes, warming up and coming on and going, all right, Brendan, I see you. Okay, whoever you want. All right,
Varane, get on the pitch.
Varane, get on the pitch. Yeah, shore it up. Sabitzer, you lucky so-and-so, get off the pitch. I'm putting 3 at the back or whatever. He shouldn't be going, oh, thank God for that. They didn't change a thing. Happy days. Because he could have sat there.
Yeah, can't remember what minute it was, but they started delaying. I felt like it was 70 more minutes. I was like, oh, God, we've got this for another 25 minutes, like another 15 minutes of just them delaying, because we normally do that 5 minutes towards the end. They were that comfortable. And again, I've no credit. I would do the same thing. But the fact is we're letting them do that. I'm like, come on, lads. And this isn't the Man United under Fergie era. They're in a transition. And then they've substituted a lot of players. Again, Casemiro was missing. Martinez was, so there was certain players that didn't come off. So they were there to be got at because they're concentrating midweek on the final, and rightfully so. But why weren't we doing enough?
Yeah. The problem is what we're fuming at gives fuel to the fire for probably what Brendan will say in his post-match. And you can understand it. It's not an excuse, it's a reasoning. You look at how we played in that first half, and it was there for everyone to see. Neutral, Man United fans were worried. Neutrals were looking at going, there's a game on here. Leicester might do this. Because we were all over them until they scored. And even afterwards, yes, Man, you were able to take the edge out of the game because they didn't have to go full throttle. But they were looking at us going, oh, God, this is really not who we wanted to be up against, given we've got Barcelona and then a cup final against. Yeah. And then what followed, what unravelled, decisions not given, dodgy, tight decisions that conveniently go against the teams like Leicester, Brighton, Fulham, West Ham, etc., but go in the favour of Man United, Man City, Liverpool, etc. Kill the game off, and you're very right in what you say. When your manager just doesn't have the right plan B to change things, the game was lost. It didn't need a third goal, but that kind of summed up where we were in that second half. And if you only tuned in, like I said, if you're out shopping or whatever, and you only tuned in and watched the second half, you'd have felt like, well, man, you must have played that the whole game. They really didn't, and that saddens me with the outcome and result.
Yeah. And they are a good team, Man United, and it shows the mentality of the manager as well. Ten Hag at times had that team kicking and screaming, dragging them through. Right, we're going to do this. And that shows the mentality of kind of the top level managers, which Ten Hag has shown is. And it's the level that I can't, unfortunately, say that Brendan Rodgers is because of examples like this. And yes, he spent money. Yes, but the couple of players that were out, Ken Casemiro, if he was in the midfield, it would have been a very different game in terms of it. Man United was saying because he's out of it, it would have been hard. But I think another player to give credit to as well. For the first half, David De Gea, I mean, two really good saves, and you're thinking that could have put again. It was a game of what ifs, especially in the first half. The red card, them two opportunities. Nacho does really well. He potentially could have put his header, could have put more power into it, but I think again, good save by De Gea, and the save by Barnes, just fantastic from goalkeeping from De Gea. I hate that I'm sitting there saying that, but give credit where it's due. I mean, well done to them. And again, in another universe, another red card, we win that game comfortably. But it is what it is.
Yeah, of course it is, and I probably think that's the most infuriating thing. If you take the very, very dubious decisions or non-decisions out of the game, if that game's ends 1-0 today, we'd have sat here very proud. We'd have almost been talking about the game as if you'd have thought we'd have won the game or got a point. But if we'd lost it 1-0, you'd have gone, you know what? Sometimes it's just not meant to be. And when a keeper's in form like that, it just seems to happen. You could be ultra picky and say that maybe Iheanacho shouldn't go on a stretch with his header. I mean, it was still a good header, but maybe he throws a volley at it. or maybe you say Barnes puts it a little bit wider. Well, it's like, well, obviously, if he puts it a little bit wider, it's in. But you have to credit De Gea. And even if there was a little part of you at half time thinking it might not be our day, but we just got a chance if we can keep going. And unfortunately, what the shambles that unfolded in front of our eyes, it never looked the case, did it?
No,
De Gea didn't need to come out for that second half.
No, he genuinely didn't. A little 5-yard put pass, like mini golf pass from Maddison. Not blaming him. Again, Maddison, I just don't think he was kind of cut out of the game as well today. But yeah, Brad, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate you. Tell people where they can find you as well.
Can find me usually ranting and raving on Leicester till I die, but my YouTube channel is, as you can see there, is Top 10 Battles. Football Top 10 Battles. We've done all sorts of Top 10 Battles over my time there, so if you could show me support, it'd be brilliant. Follow me on Twitter at Full Time Focus, and guys, please do drop a like and subscribe on Beyond the 90, because Neil does fantastic work, and he's always a very honourable man and speaks sense, and he's a good test guinea pig for quizzes. So I'd give him any support I can for this one.
Oh, I thought you meant good candidate for quizzes. As we know, Brad, bottom of the table as usual.
Yeah,
me and you. Here we go. Anyway, yeah, appreciate it again. I'll leave to all them. It's a YouTube channel and Twitter, everything at the bottom. Thanks everybody for watching. Again, make sure you go check out Brad's channel. We'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye.